Welcome to the Graybeard Chronicles podcast. Your hosts, Brian Halstead and Kevin Harkins, are two gray-bearded patriots who love God, their family and friends, and their country. The Graybeards are here to inspire, inform, and educate you on a myriad of topics they are passionate about. Brian and Kevin have a strong desire to share this with you to help you live your best life. Sit back and enjoy this amazing podcast as the Graybeards pass along the wisdom of the ages.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. I'm Brian Halstead.
And I'm Kevin Harkins.
And Kevin, we're here to pass along some wisdom of the ages. What the heck does that mean?
We're not perfect, but we do have gray beards. And that means we've got some significant life experience, some life lessons, and some perspectives that are worthy of passing along.
Well, I think that sums it up nicely. Let's get to it. Kevin, top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning.
How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. Before we get going too much further, I just wanted to ask, are you sure that you've pushed all the right buttons today? Everything going like it should over yonder?
All right, stand by. Let me double check.
Yeah.
Okay. I
We're
think
good. We're good.
yes,
I saw the computer.
we have lights on in all the appropriate locations with recording indicators in all the appropriate locations as well, and no extra lights or anything. So I think we're good.
Excellent. Well done. I know you're excited about week 2 of the NFL season. Things are off to a great start for the Commanders. And we're
Yeah, like I said when we were talking a little bit ago, I mean, I have completely just cleared my schedule this afternoon so I could watch every game.
wonderful. That
I mean, it's it is the number one priority for me today.
I think you're overdoing that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that we just both got inundated with some BS.
Exactly. Yeah. Telling stories.
That'll be a good day.
Stories in my head about that.
You telling stories in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting, right? So how does that work in your head? Is it like a group conversation with several voices that you hear, or how does that work?
Sometimes it is. Yeah. I'm having conversations with other people. Yes. When that happens.
In your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that not how it works for you?
Yeah, it's like a group therapy session sometimes.
Interesting.
All in my head.
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's special.
Are you calling me special? I appreciate that.
I am. Yes, I am. You're a special.
I like to think of myself as special.
Yes, absolutely.
We're all special.
That's right.
In a beautiful way. And I mean that sincerely.
I know that. And I believe that. So yeah, that actually happens to be our topic this morning is stop telling stories in your head. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is because this happens all the time, but it's happened a lot in my life recently. And it seems like maybe it comes in waves because I pay attention to it in waves. But I personally am way better at it than I used to be. But I'm not immune to that happening. But it's a lot of times what I'm watching other people go through. So what I'm talking about is there's a circumstance that has occurred in your life. Typically, it involves another person. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's just going on with you and only you. But you start becoming unclear about what the other person might be thinking, or why they might be doing something that they're doing, or why they're not doing something that you think they should be doing. But you don't know why. And so you start to tell stories in your head. You start to make up things. You actually can even start to have conversations with them in your head about how you might address a particular situation because you don't know. And I would say largely that whole concept of telling stories in your head about things that are going on out there,
right,
that you are not familiar with the details of in that moment, the goodness that comes out of telling stories in your head typically is not going to end up well.
No.
There we go. That was a long and winding path to make that point, but and I can share, and I will share some examples, but tell me what you think about that.
So I love the way that you kind of set the table for that, because you're exactly right there. And what ends up happening, and I've used this phrase many times, absent actual information, people are going to fill in the gaps. And
Okay.
if they don't have the information necessary, they're going to come up with their own idea based on their knowledge and experiences that they've had. And you're right. They'll make assumptions about how somebody feels about something because they've played this story in their head, and that story is just based on filters associated with their own experiences and so on. And I got to share this too, because I saw this morning. I thought it was hilarious, and I think it's applicable to this conversation. It's one of these cowboy quotes, and it's a meme, right? So the cowboy is sitting there, and the quote goes something like this: God will put you in the same situation again just to see if you're still a dumbass.
That's pretty good.
Right? Learn the lesson.
Yeah.
And stop falling into that same trap over and over again, where you're letting yourself, fill in erroneous information about a scenario and create an outcome that is just not productive for anybody, especially yourself.
Yeah. And you're yeah. I mean, that's it. And actually, as I was pondering this topic, as in preparation, I went back to a couple of years ago when we were talking to Gerhardt about the whole mindset thing, and what
Right.
goes on in your head.
Yeah.
And I won't get the number right because I don't remember what it is, but tens of thousands of thoughts per day come into your mind.
60, 80,000 plus. Yeah. Something like
Yeah,
that.
I thought it was 80,000 thoughts per day are going through your head,
Right.
and like 80% of them are negative, just because that's who we are
Right.
as human beings. And so you take that general sort of psychological construct, and then you overlay it onto stories that I'm telling.
Yeah.
The likelihood of you actually getting that story right, in other words, predicting what's actually going on or knowing what's actually going on out there, it's not good. The likelihood of you getting it right is not good. And what does it lead to? It leads to worry and stress, and maybe even you taking actions that are unnecessary because these stories you're telling in your head. It's and let me share a specific example that just happened this week for me. There was a person that I work with that for some reason I thought wasn't doing well, and I didn't know why. There was an interaction that I observed this person having with another person, and just based on that one interaction, I sort of mentally jumped to the conclusion that that person is not doing well. And I didn't talk to him about it. I didn't in the moment because it wasn't appropriate. It wasn't my conversation.
Right.
And some days go by, and what happens is I hadn't had the chance to talk to this person, and then all of a sudden I'm telling stories in my head about, I'm going through this whole litany of ideas about what is it that could have this person down, or and you start making up stories.
Right.
And then 48 hours later, I have a direct interaction with this person. Everything's fine. It would not, not a single thing was wrong with this person. And they're like, what? Well, what are you talking about? And yet I had spent, oh my goodness, all the thoughts he had. Did I say something? Did I do something? Did somebody else say something? Did somebody else do? It's just crazy. And so I don't do that very often, but every once in a while, we all do.
Yeah, but it's cool when you catch yourself like that, and I'd encourage folks to, pay attention. I think it's all part of the self-actualization process, where, you can, reflect on your own behavior after it's happened and evaluate the results, and and just kind of check yourself, be like, yeah, that was a waste of time. I totally went off path thinking that, something was wrong here, and so on. And yeah, you actually find out the real information. You're like, oh man, you think about all the time you wasted.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
energy, mental energy, etc. Yeah.
Your phrase is exactly right. Wasted time. And in many cases, it's worse than wasted time, because it's not just you're spending time processing that, you're actually thinking about and worrying about and talking about in your head actions you might take to do something or help or figure it out or whatever. And then you find out, boy, it was a complete waste.
Yeah. Yeah. And worry, I think you've seen the mental imaging, not mental imaging, the thermal imaging that occurs when, different emotions happen in our bodies and our brains and so on, how it impacts your body physically. And worry and anger and all of those things are, they show up in I think it's a red color that they show up as, maybe.
Right.
I don't remember exactly, but ultimately it's not a productive emotion, right? So anger, worry, things that might be associated with a scenario where you're, telling yourself a story about something that's not actually true. You're just, you're wasting time, and you're potentially doing yourself harm, literally.
So you are exactly right. And so what do you do about it? How do you stop telling stories? What's the process you got to go through, in your opinion, to stop doing this?
Well, the first thing is understand that it happens.
Okay.
And then, be able to catch yourself in the moment. Like, whoa, wait a minute, let me pump the brakes on this. I see myself going down, I came to this fork in the road and I went the wrong way. Let me back up and reevaluate this and maybe choose a different response. But it's all about self-awareness and actually being able to catch yourself when it happens and then redirect.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. I think, and then if you don't have the opportunity to, so I would say that especially if it's involves another person, because sometimes we do this about our own self. I mean, you know, here's another thing, and I know that there are people who are predisposed to do this. Oh, I have a pain in my back. I wonder if I have cancer. I
Let's
wonder
go
if
to WebMD and find out.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And then 5 minutes later, oh my God, I'm dying.
Right. Yes, that's exactly right. Has
Yeah.
nothing to do with anybody else, but you are all of a sudden running down this mental path that has you worried as all get out about something that's going on because you have a pain in your back. Oh my, and that's telling stories in your head.
Yeah.
So to me, it's do something about whatever it is that you identified. If it's appropriate and you can do it in a way that's right. If involves another person, say to pick up the phone or walk over to them and say, "You all right? Everything good?" And
Yeah.
just
Take some kind of positive action to rectify the
yeah,
situation. Don't just
yes,
let yourself sit there and spin. You're not a washing
yes,
machine. Turn the spin cycle off.
yes, yes, and don't go to WebMD and start researching every ailment known to man, because you have a pain in your back. I'm not saying don't do anything, but people can go down that rabbit hole for days, weeks, months,
Mhm.
worried about this kind of stuff. And you know what? A lot of times the psychological impact on your physical body is real. And so,
Yep.
and then the other thing I'd say is, take some positive action and then just stop telling stories. Just stop it. Just walk away. Change the subject in your brain to something else until you can take some positive action. And don't get yourself like painted into this corner where you now know, because you've worked it out in your head, not having had any interactions with anybody else. You've got it all worked out what happened, only to find out later that you weren't even close to the
Right.
truth.
Yeah. It's, and you're, you have to remember, you are the master of your own mind.
Right.
You decide how you're going to think and respond to certain things.
Right.
That's it, right? Nobody else has the ability to do that for you. So understand the magnitude of that responsibility and don't take it lightly. I
Right.
was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were calling me to ask my advice on a scenario. And the initial part of the conversation was like, "Hey, I'm sorry to bother you with this and start your day off to a bad start." I'm like, you're not starting my day off to a bad start, and no matter what we talk about, it's not going to ruin my day.
There you go.
I am happy to offer my opinion or thoughts on the scenario, and I'm not going to let it get on me so it ruins my day. that's a decision, right?
Right.
I could let it ruin my day. If I decided to go that route, I'm not going to.
Right. There you go.
You have the ability to choose how you're going to respond to that.
Yeah, I really like that. You're exactly right. You are absolutely right. And then taken to the extreme, you become delusional. And when I say that, I mean both in the negative side of things or in the positive side of things. So let's say that the story you start telling your head is, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm the greatest ever. I don't make mistakes. I'm the man. I'm getting it. And that you become that's the story you're telling in your head. That becomes delusional.
Right.
And on the other hand, if you go down the whole negative path,
Right.
that can become delusional too. So you
Yeah.
figure it out. You can you said it, take positive actions to figure out what's going on, whatever it is, and resolve it. And if you can't right now in this moment do that, stop to change the subject. Stop telling
Well,
us.
and and if those are your two extremes, right? The negativity and the spinning, or being positive to a delusional state, then
Right.
pick something in the middle, or closer to the right hand side, the positive side. Maybe take that extreme and sprinkle a little reality into it, and then land on a good spot there. But yeah, you get to choose.
Right.
Choose wisely.
And to paraphrase horribly Mark Twain talking about this issue, I've worried about a whole bunch of things in life, most of which never happened. And that's telling stories in your own head. So yeah, we just need to generally stop doing it and take positive action to gain more information or to resolve the situation than telling the stories, which leads to worry and stress and strain, and maybe even, I mean, you might walk into an encounter with somebody having told a bunch of stories in your head, not knowing that you're actually wrong, and engaging in a conversation in a particular way, or with a particular energy that's very negative because you've told the wrong story in your head, and the person's like, what on earth? Where are you coming from? Well, that stuff happens.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And that's another one where you got to be paying attention, right? Not only to your own emotions and responses to things, but to other people that you're interacting with, because they'll be a mirror for you as far as how you're coming across, and their response to the way you're coming across. And you might have to, temper that a little bit, or change your methodology based on the feedback that you're getting in the moment. And kind of, I love this phrase because I think you can apply it to so many scenarios. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's great.
It works.
Yep, absolutely. There you go. There's my topic for the day, Brian.
All right. Well, that's a good one. Food for thought for all of us. And yeah, just catch yourself. Pay attention to what you're churning up in that mind of yours, and the stories that you're telling yourself, and don't let it take you down some crazy ass rabbit hole that's going to, ruin your day, your week, or whatever.
Amen. That's it. So
all
thank
right.
you. Yeah.
Well, here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
No matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing, make sure between this podcast and the next, you take time
to enjoy the ride.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. Please subscribe so you'll receive notification when new episodes are available. To learn more about the Graybeards, visit their website, graybeardchronicles.com.